Well, live from Philadelphia, it's Mr. Pritchard's Art Room. Welcome back to the art room, or I should say my kitchen. I'm your host and your teacher, Mr. Pritchard. I'm still doing homeschooling, and I hope everybody's well and safe. We're going to have some fun today with this lesson.
The number you have dialed
What was that?
has been changed.
What? Fan mail? You mean to tell me every time I hear this sound,
The number
that
you
means
have
we
dialed-
have fan mail? They sent a video? All right. What? That's a lizard! He wrote a note and sent more photos? Well, let me read the note.
Dear Mr. Pritchard, hello, my name is Cheese, and I live in sunny Florida. I've never been allowed to go to your art room, but now that we're all home doing homeschooling, I've been thoroughly enjoying your videos online teaching me about art. Tell your students I said hello and I hope they're doing well. P.S. In the future, do you think you could do a video about how to draw animals or lizards? I'd like that a lot. You take care. Your friend, Mr. Cheese.
Oh, I guess we're doing an art lesson about animals and lizards. Let's get started with some art history. The artist we're going to be studying is the French artist Henri Rousseau. No, it's not Henry Rosen, Henri Rousseau. And here's Rousseau with one of his paintings. He's considered an impressionist artist. His art is a little different than the other impressionists. Maybe not as bright or as blurry or as many textures, but he's still an impressionist artist. Here's an image of Picasso with some of Rousseau's paintings. Here's an image of a tiger coming out of the jungle. It looks very, very windy during a storm. Now, Rousseau supposedly did not see these things for real in his life, or even heard them most likely. He got inspiration from books and from gardens. This particular image I've always liked of this night scene. Very peaceful. Now, this is an image I've never understood. How is the person so small compared to these flowers? The flowers are at least 20 times the size. I like this image of the primates in the jungle. Now, the artwork mostly has a lot of different variations of green mint in it. Now, Mr. Cheese might be yelling out, I thought we were drawing lizards today. I'm getting there. First, I'd like to take a little minute or two to talk about the art history. Now, with Rousseau's artwork, it had a lot of colors, but not as many colors as like Van Gogh's artwork. So what I'm going to start talking about next is how to draw these animals, or for me, a lizard. I like to start off with just simple shapes, and I'm going to talk a little bit why. So these drawings are going to be more realistic. Now these images here I've shown to the little ones before at school. We've taken these from online. These drawings are done from simple shapes, circles, ovals, rectangles. In this giraffe here, couple lines in for the legs, but circles, rectangle shapes. I love the cat. It starts with a circle and you get almost these triangle ears. And you slowly build up in steps. Now why I prefer to do this is because a lot of times when we're drawing, especially if we want to be realistic, we start very slow and go around the edges and things. But drawing in this way with the shapes, I find, it helps to get the layout done quickly. And you don't have to worry about making a mistake. And you can kind of figure out how things are going to fit into the objects. Now it's time to pick the animal that you're going to want to draw. Now myself, I'm going to be drawing a reptile, a lizard, for Mr. Cheese. Now if you want, you can draw a similar scene to what Rousseau did, that you can actually make it like a jungle. Be interesting if you want to put your animals in an environment. My first graders have a little bit of practice with this. Now for my eighth graders, you should make it very, very difficult, such as we saw with a scene from Roussan. So I recommend to my eighth graders at least 2 to 3 different animals. And please, let's not take the shortcut and draw a snake. That's a little too easy. Here's some examples of some different animals. You could pick one from here or any from your imagination. Remember, I want you to start thinking of these animals as shapes. Oval, circle heads, rectangle necks, maybe square bodies. These birds have triangle beaks, triangle wings. I'm not worried about color yet. I'm more worried about the shapes in these animals. Think back to when we were drawing the mannequin in class, using those ovals for the head, circles representing where the body bends, rectangles for parts of the arms and legs. Here are the supplies I'm using today. I'm going to be using a pencil. I actually took out 3 of them. No erasers, so I'm using number 6s and 8. If you're using a number 2, that's fine. If you still want to use a pen, that's fine. I like using a pen a lot because it'll actually make the drawing raised up a little bit so it's easier to feel. I'm going to be using my sketchbook today. If you want to still use regular lined paper, go ahead. I took out an old sketchbook today that I still had because I'm planning on trying to shade this drawing a little bit to give some 3-dimensional effects. Well, let's get started. Looking for a fresh piece of paper. Here we go. Now, again, I'm going to be drawing Mr. Cheese the lizard. And the way I'm going to start with those shapes. Now, I have a photograph of Mr. Cheese here. Some of my students might be using a book or just their imagination. I'm going to start off with an oval for his head and this simple oval shape for his body. His body is way bigger than his head. The only difference with his body is I kind of went to a point with towards his tail, almost like a teardrop. His legs are starting off with those circles and rectangles. Now later on, a lot of the stuff is going to be moved because I might not have it in the right place, but I'm going to try my best to try to figure out where his arms need to go within his body. His tail is definitely not going to fit. I can already tell this is an issue. So don't worry about it. Let's start putting in those details now to make Mr. Cheese, well, Mr. Cheese the lizard. let's start doing some shading and some more details to really give life to Mr. Cheese. I noticed in a photograph and even from touching Mr. Cheese before, some of his body has almost like circular scales. Now, if I had an eraser, I would erase some of these square and circle shapes. But I'm not too concerned about it. Over here in the belly, more like dots. Well, here's the finished product. Mr. Cheese as a practice drawing. Mr. Cheese taking more time in the sketchbook. This one has a little circle to represent the sun with an arrow to show me shading. I actually like the practice one more. It took less time, and to me, Mr. Cheese looks happier. I'm not too concerned about getting rid of the circles and things representing where Mr. Cheese can bend. You don't have to either. These drawings do not have to be perfect. Let's have some fun right now with our artwork. I'm looking forward to seeing what animals my students draw and what environments you put your animals or reptiles in. I'm planning on giving Mr. Cheese some rocks and maybe some flowers that he was crawling around. Well, until then, I hope everyone's safe and I hope everyone is well. Stay creative.